What's up, fam? We are back. Today, we are going to talk about church, more specifically, Black church. One of the things that, fellas, we've been hearing here lately, I think it's been an uptick, is the topic on social media, why Black men don't go to church, this, that, and the third. So, fam, we have a very special guest with us here today who is a subject matter expert. So we got brother Jonathan Ivory here, and Jonathan is all things church. He's a musician, he's a preacher, a fellow podcaster, wonderful husband, exceptional dad. So I said musician, right?
Yeah, jack of all trades.
Yeah. So we coming from a musical family, right?
Yes, sir. Yep,
Okay.
Musical family.
Did I miss anything?
No, that's good, man. Just your brother out here. But thank y'all for having me, man. Here on the pod. Appreciate it. Yeah.
It is our pleasure. We're gonna go ahead and jump into this. Mm-hmm. You know, why Black men don't go to church. Now, they say that perception is reality. So I don't know if that will go for this particular subject, but I do know that, you know, historically, we was killing it in the church. You know, Black men. And I think, and it's just my opinion, the apex was the civil rights movement. Black men were out front, you know, because of course the Black church is a pillar of our community, or at that time it was, you know, but here now, it's been trending downwards. So being the younger or the crew, I'm going to ask you, in your age group, what would be a particular reason why Black men don't go to church? Because I have to imagine that you are probably like a unicorn in your peer group.
Yeah, we are. And I think one of the reasons, it doesn't even spark from my generation, but from what I saw it coming down, I was like, our parents were like in and out of the church. Like, I wasn't a church kid at all, but my parents went to church sometimes they didn't. But we still were a faith-based family. And then I think back to my grandparents, I didn't know too much about them going down to church. So now you come to me and my generation, is pretty much our decision, do we want to go or not? So I made the decision to go and get involved. But a lot of us, others are like, I didn't go now. And then you take where we are now, you got your phone. And like, I could just do it on my phone.
So, okay, with that then, so, and I'm glad you brought that up. I have to think, though, that the decision that is made, whether to go or not to go, is based upon, you know, how you grew up. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking at your phone, it's like, okay, that's not telling the whole story.
Yeah, but that's what they're thinking. You can put it on the TV, too, and bam, I'm in my living room. I got church at home.
Lord have mercy. Y'all just, okay.
That's how it is.
Yeah. Jonathan, let me ask you, growing up in church, and I'm sure you've seen it all. You know, from men that were heavily involved to men that weren't. Let me ask you, what do you think would be the chief reason for the decline in Black men going to church?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be a few things. You know, I think it's kind of like it can be a cultural response too. Like to Brandon's point, I mean, you know, now, you know, you see an uptick in, you know, people not being or Black men specifically, like not being interested because, you know, there's a really pervasive attitude, especially like not only just among Black men, but just in our Black culture about like, you know, people getting back to our African roots. And I want to look into serving my ancestors. And now we had this really, really, really like popular argument of Christianity is the white man's religion and stuff like that. And so also too, you know, a lot of the studies have seen that, you know, when we say church specifically, probably Christianity seeing a decline is because, you know, with, you know, Islam growing as far as men is concerned, because there has been a heavy focus on that side with information. Like men want information, you know, with the Christianity where a lot of stuff is based on a lot of experience, like it can be, you know, they're like, I'm not as emotional, but where's the information? And then where's the action and stuff like that? So I think, me personally, now my perspective about it is that I think it has a lot to do with a lack of proper discipleship on the Christianity side. Because we come from the discipleship standpoint, I think you you would draw a lot more men because it is based on doctrine and information and what is meant instead of like just necessarily an emotional experience.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because when you talk about Islam, number one religion in the world, and you see that they have a strict adherence to discipleship, to your point, and I think, Carl, we grew up where we saw, we didn't have a lot of exposure when it came to Islam. We had the final call, the brothers out there selling the papers and stuff. And I think that's a model to see, because what you saw, discipline. You saw respect. Recently, probably about a few years ago, I went to see the Honorable Minister Farrakhan speak. And from the time I got there, it was strict. Men on the left, women on the right. And I mean, the brothers were there and respectful, but you knew they didn't play. So, I think, Carl, we, having had the experience of seeing the limited amount of Islam that we saw, you came up in the church. So how would you sum up why you think there's been a decline in black men going to church?
I think there's a number of reasons, kind of like Brother Ivory said, but I want to tie what the three of you have already kind of pointed out. During the civil rights movement, the men in the church had responsibilities. They were given tasks. There was a mission. There was a clear goal in mind. As things morphed, it got more into, well, we can do things outside of the church. Particularly, and I'll just off the top of the head, for SNCC, and for those of you who don't know what SNCC is, you Google it. When Stokely Carmichael and his ilk, and I don't mean no disrespect to Brother Carmichael, but for his group kind of took over SNCC, it moved from a religious-based or led movement to a more black militancy, black power, Africanism type of movement. So the church was no longer involved in the liberation the aspect. It was more of not a theology aspect, but more just be liberal. Be liberal. As we've moved into it now, I think that the church, particularly going into the 70s and really into the 80s, became more of a. That's when we saw, I guess, the kind of formation of the mega churches. So you started having pastors who had, you get up and be charismatic, you can preach, and you draw a lot of people, but it would be mostly women because now the men no longer had those tasks. It was more, come and hear me preach on Sunday.
And we're going to dive into that because you did hit on a very interesting point, in terms of the mega churches. Myths that we've all heard, first, I think the number one myth is, black men look at the preacher, he dressed nice, big house, big car, he just pimping y'all. He just pimp. I'm not giving him my money. Yet your wife is there, your girlfriend is there. So, Carl, to your point with the advent of mega churches, and a lot of times what we see, and not in all cases, but a lot of times what we see is, churches will give the religious leader that godlike status, and we talk about deity. Yes, pastor said this, pastor said that, and I think that's another thing that, some men look at and say, well, wait a minute, I don't get that respect in my house.
Absolutely.
But you gonna go to church and
I could go to church with my woman one time, and I done talked to her the whole week, and she been like, This man get up there and say something, and I'm like, you what? I told you the same thing on Tuesday.
It don't ring the same.
And see that, and I think that becomes the excuse, like because that does make him look like a pimp. So if I'm a man and I'm looking at another man excite my wife more than I do. Oh no!
Wait a minute.
I'm not coming here, and I really don't want you to.
Yeah, you need to leave too.
So, Jonathan, I have to imagine that that's a delicate balance. You and your wife are both in church, so I'm sure y'all ain't never had that problem. But if you see something like that, if you got a brother that may not come to church, but his wife is there faithfully, is there anything that you can do in terms of discipleship to maybe bridge that gap? Because that's another thing that I noticed too. A lot of men feel like, I'm going to church, but I don't come because they're not addressing some of the issues that I go through as a black man, and going back to discipleship. That's something that I think is probably falling off by the wayside when it comes to these churches. What are your thoughts on that, Jonathan?
Yeah, man. I mean, this is a big deal for me. I think it does come back fundamentally to discipleship, because if we taught the word the right way, then it would be inclusive and not exclusive, right? Is it meaning that, like, if we show people that the order is that Christ set forth is for there to be an order where Christ is the head of the church, Christ is the head of the church, the man is the head of his wife, right? And then wife submits to her husband. Like, that's the order that Jesus sets in place. Now, I think this is the gospel according to John. It's just me. What I think is, I think that one of the things that happened, you mentioned about the civil rights movement, and I think that as for us as black people, especially here in the West, where we came up in a time coming through years of slavery, years of segregation, years of racism, the church was the place that we got respect, right? See, because out in the streets, I was boy, I was the N-word, I was, I was demeaned, but when I went to church, I was deacon so-and-so, I was brother so-and-so,
Yep, sir.
I was sister so-and-so, right? And so what happened was, in our fight, in our pursuit to find equality, like in society, right? We were like, hey, we just want to be like everybody else as far as respect is concerned. It started from that noble place. However, I think subconsciously, especially with us like coming up in this capitalistic world, to your point about the putting people on a pedestal, in capitalism, you got to have a hero, right? So we model that in the church. And so now we made the pastor or leaders the heroes, right? And so now there's much more focus on the men. So I think what started to happen is you started seeing kingdom culture being pushed out, discipleship being pushed out, and now the American dream and cultural idea being brought into the church. So now we're trying to emulate that. We're trying to be like, oh, well, now, in the, out in the world, you can be successful. Out in the world, you can be the man. Out in the world, you need to build a brand. But that's countercultural to what the word teaches us. So now I think, when one way to counter that is to just simply get back to what the Bible says about what the kingdom is, instead of us trying to build brands and be like what we see culture doing in the church.
That's good. In regards to that, though, I know we've had churches that, they try different things. I don't want to call them gimmicks, but, to pull people in. And men, so for instance, gospel music. We know that it's gone through some iterations.
What Kurt say? Say it's gone too far.
Something like that.
Some iterations. Kirk Franklin has been, in gospel music, 30 plus years now, and we've seen it, ascent, and now it is an actual genre.
Yes,
where they making money. But we also saw the video or the audio of Kirk Franklin straight cussing his son out. And the crazy part is he didn't back down from it. Now, you got Kirk Franklin, he spinning and gyrating on stage now. My wife went to a concert, I think last year or something like that. She said she was offended. So I say all that to say, it's like they're trying different things to bring in people, but for me, it's like you keep trying this stuff, then at some point, where do you draw the line in the sand? And where does it cross from, religion to worldly, secular
you being
beliefs?
Worldly.
So what both of you all said, you said about the discipline of the Nation of Islam, and then you talked about my mind is going bad.
No,
but what I say about gospel music, and I just had to go back to this. You and I, hip hop from early days. And been listening to rap music and all that kind of stuff. Now, I grew up in a house a Pentecostal house, but we were allowed to listen to secular music. We wasn't so.
Not too loud.
So
though.
yeah, no, my mother didn't know I had that. She did not know I had that. That was not played in the house. But I remember she brought home, and this is when albums were out. I'm that old.
Yeah.
She brought me this album, and she said, "This is he does rap, but it's Christian rap."
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Okay." Now remember, this is in the '80s.
Yeah.
And I put this on, and I was like, "This is what?
Get this out of here.
This? I ain't listening to this.
What's wrong with the
Christ
Christian
is the
rap,
man.
man?
I'm like, what?
Man.
I ain't listening to this.
Do you know who the artist was?
I don't.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say if I did. But I said, so okay, fast forward. Kirk Franklin's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to, but when I listen to God, because I grew up in the church, I'm choir driven. I like choirs.
Mm-hmm.
I like certain artists that were, the Andre Crouches and the Richard Smallwoods and all of that. When Kirk came around, I'm like, okay, cool. His first album, okay, cool. This a little different, but
Mm-hmm.
as you move into like the Stomp and the old nine yards, I'm like, it's not necessarily for me. I mean, it's cool, but that's not me. Once you start getting into, like you said, the gyrating on stage, money. It's the money that's involved in gospel music now and in the church period.
Mm-hmm.
Because before, they made money. I mean, Andre Crouch made money and James Cleveland made money, but it wasn't
Reverend
Kirk
Ike.
Franklin money. Mm-hmm. Well, Rev Mike is a whole nother story. So now when I look at certain artists, and again, I won't say no names, but we'll just say Kirk Franklin because we're in Detroit, and it's a whole lot of people in Detroit
Lord.
that I look at like that's their job. It used to be ministry.
Good point. Good
Now
point.
this is their job.
Mm-hmm.
And with Kirk, when he's putting on something at the Fox or at Little Caesars now,
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
where
moving on up.
Yep, that was the last concert.
that's a job.
Yep.
I mean, you sprinkling Jesus in there, but you got to put on a show because there's a lot of people that are coming to see you for the
Sell out those
music.
seats.
They're not going to church on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They coming to see you. They'll listen, and I have friends that say, I put on my gospel music on Sundays. That's my church. I get up in the morning and play.
When I clean up.
I play a devotional song and say my prayers, and that's my relationship with God. So they're looking for things that they're familiar with. Now, and you can, as a minister, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I never saw that gospel music was made to evangelize. It was for us. It was to edify, as far as I know. But when people say, well, I'm going to make a record with Sexy Red because, that's going to help spread the gospel.
Yeah, I don't think that works.
See, okay, so
That's a job.
if you would allow me, so let me offer a different perspective here, so because I did a pod on this, so
Okay.
I'm interested in y'all perspective. So I actually did a pod about the when and this was a big thing when Kurt, Chandler, Kiera did the song with Glorilla, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Went in
here,
there for a Grammy, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
it went for a Grammy.
Oh Lord.
So here's the
Amen.
thing here's a perspective that I'll offer people. So I say this from the standpoint coming from the Word, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, talking about how he uses the church and describes it as the body, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I think was something that I've learned is that and now somebody gonna say I'm being a Kirk apologist. I'm not being a Kirk apologist. I do like Kirk. I like his testimony. I've watched him since the beginning, and I had a chance to see. Him talk about his life and bring his perspective and stuff like that. What I will say is this. I think that from the outside looking in, I think it's hard to make a judgment about the person's heart not having a relational equity with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, does this mean I agree with everything that Kirk does and has he got it wrong? For sure. I mean, for sure. What's funny is listening to him on a podcast, I mean, he'll tell you, he was like, he'll tell you sometimes I get up there, he was like, I'm in my element and I'm doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I do too much. He was like, I tell you. And he said, and then what most people may not realize, he invites the criticism because most people try to get him to be like, oh, what you got to say to these people that be criticizing? He'd be like, oh, I invite it. He was like, if you think I'm doing too much, he said, for somebody that's a part of my church family, he said, in the body of Christ, He was like, tell me, hey, Kirk, I thought this was too much. I thought you was doing too much. But that's something that we miss. So anyway, I say all of that to say, when you don't have, it's easy for us to make, especially in this time where it's all about the 90-second clip and context is no longer king. People will make judgments off of a clip and don't have any context to the person. Now, where I would disagree is that I've heard people dog out people like a Kirk Franklin or, people that have done stuff with other secular artists. And they'll make full character judgments just off of them doing a collaboration, which to me is crazy, right? But what we don't understand is that you may not know what is happening behind the scenes. Now, they may have a chance, like there has to be built, like I'll use Lecrae, for example, right? Lecrae has a connection with Kendrick Lamar. And this is just one example. Now, Cray cannot offer Kendrick life-changing advice if they don't have a relationship.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is that there has to be, like, I'm reading a book right now called Leading Things You Didn't Start. And one of the things they tell you is that in order for you to be able to effectively help somebody grow, you have to have a relational well to draw from. So I say that to say, I can't minister to you if you don't know I love you. So I can't come and be the first time, Brandon, I'm meeting you for the first time. You're an authority in a particular area, and I the first thing I come to you, this is our first time meeting. Hey man, I don't like the way you represent Christ, bro. I saw you that time down the street. You was hanging out. Maybe you sit at the bar. Maybe you had a drink. That's the only time I seen you. I make a full character judgment off of that. Now you gonna be like, N-word, right? Who are you? Right? like dude, who are you?
It's gonna be sir.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying that, like, when we see, I think it's important that when we see them making a collaboration and stuff like that, there may be some things happening on that you don't see, seeds that they're planting at their level. And sometimes people make statements all the time. I would never. You know what? You wouldn't, because God didn't give you and put you in that position to be able to do so.
I want to say this real quick.
Yeah.
And I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I can, but I don't want to make it like I'm making character judgments on
No.
And you're right, because people do.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody's heart. I'm just saying, from my perspective, I see what you may, and even if you have a relationship with Kendrick, you and Kendrick can do something together, and you may be ministering to him in that particular way. I just don't think that's ministering to the masses. I think that's going to, and that's just, again, that's just me. I think that's just a record that's going to go out, and some people are going to criticize it. Some people are going to like it. But is it really going to be like
real fast? Allow me to go to the word. That's exactly what happened with Jesus. Is what I'm saying. Is because Jesus was like, I didn't come for y'all. I didn't come for people that don't need a savior.
Yep.
They had an issue. You're sitting with tax collectors. Now, in the Jewish context, that is the lowest of the lowest thing you could be doing, because tax collectors was loathed. They was considered almost demons. And he not only is you sitting with him, you went to his house and you had dinner with him.
Bread with him.
So Jesus, how does this minister to the masses?
But did Jesus sing and dance? Or did he teach?
But see, that's now we ain't got look. This is a whole nother pod. We ain't got time to get into the cultural.
I'm just saying, Jesus was with the prostitutes. What was he doing with them?
But did he sing and dance?
But see, that's a cultural difference.
You at the optics.
See, the reason why I say the cultural difference. See, if you go to a church in Africa, it looked like the women is twerking when they praise it.
But that's a praise.
But see, your cultural. But see, you cannot. We cannot deny our cultural lens determines how we look at that. Because from a Western standpoint, we gonna be like, I can't be in here. But at the same time, over there, they don't look at it that way.
But you worship him in the dance.
You do.
I mean, that's scripture. It's
scripture.
Now, like you said, culturally, it can look different.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying the word never said. And he, we don't know, but I'm just saying, how did Jesus communicate? Did he sit and talk and preach and teach, or did he say, "Hey"?
But you know what? I'll go back to this though. Like you said earlier, perception is reality.
Yeah,
and that's something that as human beings, it's innate. in us. You know, we try not to judge, but yeah,
Can't
we
help
do.
it nowadays. You can't help it.
I mean,
I think, you know, and going back to one of the reasons that, you know, black men are falling off from the church, the hypocrisy of the leaders in the church.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, I'm saying to myself, nobody knew that Bishop Eddie Long was doing what he was doing. Then when it came out, people were still going to the church, and, you know, brothers sitting back like, I can't believe this.
Somebody, that's my pastor.
Exactly.
well, a lot.
You know, so you dismiss.
A lot of people did leave.
Yeah, but I'm saying a lot of people stayed too.
That's my pastor, Carl.
So you dismiss it. You can't say stuff about, you know, people. And then you look at the fact that even now, and there's been a lot of Kojic preachers just been getting in trouble, Carl.
Hey man.
They just, I mean, you got them getting caught in the backseat of cars. They messing with little kids and stuff. And that's, you know, you think back just religion as a whole, because I'm not going to say, you know, just in our community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But my
it's everywhere.
God, the Catholic Church, that's been going on for centuries, generations.
I think that does that really hurts the case for the non-believer more than it does
Big
the
time.
believer.
Yes. Yep.
Because
That gives them another reason.
absolutely.
to
Because
not
if you
go
were,
to church.
and unfortunately, from a young child, I was told and knew of some of the misgivings of preachers and pastors and so forth. So I never looked at them as more than human. That was just my teaching.
See, that right there is the issue. I'm gonna give you an example. There's something happening with a very prominent preacher right now. He had a mega church. He just did it, and this just happened. You can look it up. It's public knowledge. I can say the name, but his name was Brian Meadows. He was in a 12-year affair. This is him. He has already said this, so it ain't got. This is public knowledge. He was in a 12-year affair while he was pastoring. And so he sat down and did an interview with somebody that was a former member who he counseled their marriage. So she asked some questions, and I respect to him. He didn't dodge the questions. He fully admitted to it. But one thing he said, because she had the understanding, she said, she went to the scripture and she's like, in James, she was like, hey, not many of you should be teachers because you know you'll be held to a higher standard. Now, her interpretation of that scripture was that somehow the pastor has this higher anointing.
Perfect.
And this higher, and he said something that he said, is my Holy Ghost more special than yours?
That's it.
He was like, is my spirit, he said, do it. And she was like, yeah. And he was like, no. He said, that's how you create idols, to your point. That's how you start creating idols. And so I think, like, when it comes to, like, to your point, Eugene, about the hypocrisy, I think that it's hypocrisy because we have placed people, there's a cultural understanding. Like, oh, somehow your pastor or leaders they're not human.
They're not human.
Yeah.
But if you understand that they're just a person who happens to be in a position. Now, again, the church has fault in this too, because we have, to our point earlier, we have built that type of culture and understanding, like the pastor is somehow this bigger person. But at the same, again, back to discipleship. If it's taught the right way,
That's right.
that this person is just another man who is susceptible to the same temptation. And it's also the reason why, if you look in Hebrews, it's the very reason why God chose to use man. He said, I chose priests from among men. Why? Because they could relate to the people that they're serving. That's the thing. But when you put people on a pedestal and now you make it like, oh, he's supposed to be hired. No, he's relying on the same. Listen, I'm a preacher. I'm relying on the same Holy Spirit that everybody else is relying on.
Same table.
Right. And so it's not a game changer. I just there's accountability more because I do teach, but I also at the same time, I need you to pray for me, and I'm still susceptible, but also I still have the same access, and I still have to make the same choices that other people have to make.
And I'm gonna say to the topic of the show, some preachers do try to put themselves above.
Yep.
Yes.
And then
that
so if I'm a black man and I see you,
You're like, nope.
I'll be like, what are you doing? You can
You know better than me.
What I think too is that, just the evolution. There's been a decline in black men, going to church. But one of the things, going to your point, Jonathan, is, when we put these that has been something that's been passed down.
Yes.
It's almost like it's
Yes.
become doctrine
Yes.
in black churches. So, I say to myself, how do we move on from that? Because one example that I think about is you go to these churches, and we've all been to them. The average age of a member is 69, 72. And you're saying to
church
yourself,
is aging for
yes,
sure.
but I'm saying, how do the churches move on? Because that's another reason. Brothers go to church and they're like, well, dang, look at all these old people, and they're not addressing, things like being socially active, because that's where the civil rights movement was bred, out of churches being socially active and doing things to create different programs that they would have at the church. To your point, John, discipleship, and we have to learn and we have to grow, because as these churches out here now, be you the youngest deacon at our church. So somebody had the foresight to say, let me get this brother over here. Now I'm gonna tell you mess up and your stuff get out in the streets, then we may have to ostracize you.
The pressure.
No pressure. I'll just let you know,
But
man,
no,
you
so-
are the poster child for the younger people.
I'm the only one.
Exactly.
But to a good point where that is, and you were talking about how do you make that shift, because it's just like in business. We talking about the American dream. Church is going to phase out and have their retirement. It's going to have a bunch of new people that have to come in. And that's where you can start breaking down that the minister is at the top. I can't even talk to him just because I visit on Sunday. Or I can't talk to the deacons or the trustees or any of that because they up here and I'm down here.
So how do you grow that, though, to bring in, young men?
Well, just like when I talk to people as a deacon, I'm like, I'm no different than you. I just do this. I'm not bigger, better than anybody. Just like you were saying, the same spirit. It's the same spirit you got, the guys down the street got. But like you say, from our, like I could say, like just the generic black grandma, oh, the pastor this, pastor that, pastor never wrong. Pastor's human too. The ministers are human too. You can't idolatrize those people. You got to realize they got a role and they're human.
But that's why we've got to break that.
Yes.
I think we got to break that
So I
cycle,
think-
because, there are a lot of brothers look at it as limited opportunities for leadership in church. We got some deacons at our church that probably should have transitioned to other things years ago.
But you know what? Everybody doesn't have to be a leader. I think that a lot of times
That goes to inclusivity that
it
you
does.
mentioned earlier.
Because here's the thing with me. If I'm a man and I hear from the preacher on Sunday, or the pastor, I should say, on Sunday, but I don't hear from him Monday through Saturday, he don't have a conversation. He doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what I do. He doesn't know my skill set. He doesn't know what I'm going through.
Just,
He doesn't
what's
know
up,
my
bro?
family struggle. Nothing. But you want to stand up on Sunday and tell me this is how I should be living my life. I got a problem with that.
Yeah,
So
that's a
is
disconnect.
it
Exactly.
his,
That's a big
is it
one.
up to the pastor, though, to reach out and develop that relationship,
It's up
or
to-
do you bear some of the burden for, hey, let me go talk
You
to pastor?
can. It depends on the church, because sometimes you don't have access.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, on Sunday mornings, there's a lot of time he gets done and everybody, okay,
No.
don't touch it. He's all right, see, he's going to the office,
Thank you for coming. Good
Right,
night.
so it depends on the church. Some people will look for a church where they do have that kind of access.
Yes.
But I do think it's incumbent upon the pastor, even if you're in a mega church, if you're not the one doing it, you have a ministerial status.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That can do
That's
that.
incumbent upon the
Delegation.
pastor.
Right,
Absolutely.
and you have to
Delegation.
set the tone. I know another thing that I've been looking at when it comes to black men and stuff is the money that they see going through. You see pastor driving a Bentley, okay?
You better be working.
Well, former church that I went
you
to years ago, they had monthly accounting meetings where church members could come and they would have a detailed spreadsheet of where the money
I
was
like
going.
that.
So how do you, Jonathan, let me ask you, how do you feel about that, full fiscal transparency in the church? Because some churches, they like the trustees, they the only ones that know.
Yeah. No, I think that's paramount. I mean, I would say like in my church, no, we don't do monthly fiscal meetings, but I think it'll be clear. You can see if the church is good ground or not, and everything. I mean, I even, I remember Pastor Ellis, being at Citadel for 18 years, starting with him in the beginning. when we were renting Bailey Cathedral, he basically just banked all of the tithes and offerings. So we were there for a year. Then we were able to purchase that over $1 million building, being an organization existing for less than 2 years because they were good stewards. So I think it all comes back full circle to the word. When you talk about breaking the cycle of how young people look at the church and then like all of that, it just comes back full circle to the word. The Bible gives us the roadmap for how we're supposed to do it. Just people have taken it and they corrupted. When people are involved, there's going to be abuse involved. But yeah, I mean, if you get back, if somebody taught you through discipleship that you need to steward well what you're given, understand, number one, that this is not my church. Like my pastor says all the time, like he tells me, he said, listen, if I ever get to the place where I start saying this is my church,
That's good.
he was like, then he was like, you have permission to check me. He was like, you see me going off. He's like, I am a steward. Everything we have been given. If you understand it, that's what keeps you humble. And I think that's what needs to be taught, and that's how you can break it, and everything. And then just to encourage y'all too, man, about the whole, like the young people thing and the age thing. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to go to a discipleship conference that was hosted by Jackie Hill Perry. It was 7,000 people there. I guarantee you the age demographic was 50 and under. I talked to at least 7 people who were in their 20s with this same testimony. I grew up in church. I got and left church. Now I really want to know how to study the Bible. I really want to know what it is to live for God. So there is just to encourage y'all, man, when we talk about revival and we talk about like the remnant is here. There is a influx of people like Brandon's age who are having a hunger. They're just not, they don't want church. They're not all deconstruction is bad. They're deconstructing what they were taught wrong, and they're learning it the right way. They're being discipled because there's more of a focus. And so now you have, I know the studies, I don't think they account for like the churches that they're doing, but there is a large influx of younger generation who is like, I want to be discipled. I want to know who Jesus really is.
And I think too that, as the churches go and growing, their membership, they have to look at, things that will engage younger folks, and from a man standpoint, I think Brandon at our church, we're doing the men's groups. And, it's interesting because we had this talk where we initially had a meeting. Actually, it was a game night, football at the church. So everybody came out and stuff, and we had a suggestion box. Okay. Put a suggestion box. So what we did as a men's group, we took the suggestion box and what did we do? Top 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Things that, men wanted
3 to 5.
They wanted to chop it up. They wanted to have, chats. They wanted to do stuff, and these are things that they wanted. Herein lies the challenge. We started implementing those things and turnout just waned.
Yeah, but this is what you asked for.
Exactly. So, I think there's a dichotomy there because you want to, do something to bring brothers in, but then you start doing it and brothers don't show up and you're like, and like I've always said to the men's ministry, we can't give up. We we continue. We continue. My youngest son showed up at church last Sunday, just shocked me. I'm like, who is this tall? Oh, that's my son.
I know you. Wait a minute.
And been, ministering to him for forever. And, he finally seems like he's turning that corner, and I know too that what you can't do and be, I'm pretty sure this falls for your generation is force feed.
Yeah,
people.
You can't.
And I think that, especially now in the way we came up, I tell people all the time, real recognize real. I can tell if you're being genuine.
Yeah.
And if you're not, I stop listening.
And this generation, even more now, they can see. Like, I don't know, they can discern. They like, nah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they can see. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a big transition from, like, I want to say my younger 20s, because I think I started going to our church at, like, 21 years old, and I started talking to people about that, and along the lines of that, a lot of us when we're younger, you have to go to church because that's what mom and dad, grandma, and grandpa do. You have to go, and I feel like if it's good that you're going to a church, but if a church doesn't feed you, You're just there sitting. Cause like I remember I went to one church when I was a kid. I would just bring my toys and sit there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was 5, but some 5-year-olds that can't get fed at church. But I'm with my little action figures, just waiting to go home and play some more.
Mm-hmm.
When I came to our church, when I was in my teens, I did get fed there. So again, I wasn't the teenager just scrolling on my phone at church. I'm actually trying to pay attention. But you do have a large amount of younger people that were just pulled into church that like, what am I doing here? So now you're becoming an adult. You can drive. You can do what you want to do. I'm not going to church because what was it?
Right. Let me ask you, B, when it comes to your generation, do you find yourself ministering to your peers?
I try to do it in a light way because I come from that thing where, again, like I was saying, church
What's a
was-
light way? What, in between?
Let me-
in between drinks?
No,
or?
no, because again, a lot of
I'm about to listen.
Soft.
I'm gonna listen.
Thank you, Carl. Because again, I come from a lot of people when I say talk about church, we had to go. We felt like we were forced in a ways.
Mm-hmm.
So if I come the same way, hey, bro, you got to go to church because I go. Yeah, he gonna never see me again. But if I tell what the benefits are, like, hey, I've got some brothers in Christ. Because a lot of times I talk to guys like, I ain't got nobody to talk to. I'm like, bro, you can find some men. Let's like we had a men's meeting group there. We had a guy say, I ain't got nobody to talk to. He had somebody to talk to at our men's meeting.
Yeah.
So I come with things like that. I don't just Bible thump at people because that's not going to work. Because I feel like that's what happened to my generation. And once we were able to decide to go, if we wanted to go to church or not, more so we're like, I don't want to go. Or it's like, I can minister myself when I'm cleaning my house Sunday with my Kirk Franklin playlist. Or if I got a Facebook Live, what do I need to go to a church for? So I have to look at it as a different way to say, I know you can stream it on YouTube, but it's still better to be there in person. And there's so many other things because like we can talk about how a lot of my people say, why am I paying these tithes or offerings? They don't know about stewardship in the Bible and it's just 10%. When I can look at some people and I say it's light because I'm like, man, you just went out Saturday night, spent $200 on drinks at this bar, spent $175 on this booth.
How you know they went out?
Because they
Social
invited
media.
it. They invited it. They invited it.
I got to get up early, so I can't make it.
Right.
Anyway, but I'm saying is they like, and that's my counter argument. Like, you can pay all this for free time, but you can't take faith out with 10%, 2%, whatever you can give. So you have to approach it lightly, but still with a good heart to say, hey, come on.
What I don't like is when people do that. They give excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Man, come on, go to church with me. Man, it's the white man's religion. The preacher just pimping y'all. Just say I don't want to go. Just say, don't give me an excuse because I can counteract all those excuses.
Right.
Just say I don't want to go. And then I can say, well, why? Well, you get to the because what it is people have some type of aversion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And they
we
put
don't.
that
You know,
wall up.
I don't always want to say church hurt.
Yeah.
Because
It's
that's
different
really
things.
that's just somebody broke your trust.
Yeah,
But
You had an encounter with people.
you had an encounter with people,
human.
Yep.
or when
God wasn't in it.
so
no
like
more.
using B's example, if I went to church with my grandmother, I used to go to a church with my great grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old, y'all. The pews didn't have no cushion.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. Ooh.
My
had those.
uncle was the Sunday school superintendent and the deacon over finance. So we got to the church. He unlocked the door, and we left. He locked the door. So we were there all day.
Wow.
Okay, so did I bring my toys? No, I wasn't allowed to bring my toys.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little tambourine and some cymbals.
That's
I
your
had to
choice.
sit on that pew through Sunday school, through service, everything. And then, like I said, afterward, we sitting around doing whatever until it's time to go. Don't let it be an afternoon service.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you talk about a job. You don't work.
That's a business day.
You don't work the job plus overtime. So it was almost like I was forced to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
I like spoken word. But that's me as a person. I
That's
like
what
spoken
fed you.
word.
Yeah,
That's what fed me. So preaching always I like singing and all that stuff too, but I always would listen to what the preacher said. And as I got older, I understood more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody's got information coming at them.
Yeah.
If you go to that same church that I went to back in the day and I'm 10, 12, I'm not really paying attention because you taking too long. You building a sermon for an hour.
Because we're in a microwave society.
Right.
People want
You
it
got to
instantly.
come and hit it and catch my attention, and then I can
Or
be
you
like,
out of there.
okay, right.
Yep.
So,
But I think also there's an opportunity to just bring back the focus. Like I will say, like to you, B, just to encourage you, like don't diminish the power of the gospel, right? And so like share the gospel with them. And I think it's stewardship. Like what I did with my children, like I'm grateful to God that all of my children have accepted Jesus Christ by their own choice. I think the reason for that, I think the Lord helped me to introduce them to the God that I serve, rather than like how I grew up. And again, I give my parents grace because you know better than what you've been taught.
Yeah.
Right? That was done to them, so they did this. They thought you did the same thing. But what I found out was I tried to introduce them to Christ. Hey, this is the character of the God that I serve. Right? This is how he is. This is what he means. This is what he wants for you. And by introducing that, and then I always kept making it clear to them, you have to make a choice.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. As your parent in our household, we're going to go to church. You're going to you're going to be in church. But when it comes to salvation, I think it's clear to make it clear you have a choice to make. But I think introducing people to God's character is more effective because all we do, I think we have to remember, it's all just seeds and water. The minute that we start trying to be God and give the increase, you're headed for frustration.
That's right.
And and it's not gonna yield any type of fruit. So you have to just present truth to people and allow them and be like, so don't diminish the power of the gospel. Again, going back to discipleship, making sure people introduce people to the character of who God is, and then allow them to make their own decision.
Yeah. Right. I think going back, Carl, to tithing and money, had a conversation with my wife, and we were talking about that, and she said it, and I've heard other people say it too. You're giving your money to God, okay? And whatever the church do with it, if they misappropriate, that's on them. And that's what I think people fail to realize, because what we see now is with the advent of mega churches, pastors are $1 million homes, $300,000-$400,000 cars and things like that. So I've said to myself, and the three of us has talked about this as well, in terms of holding each other accountable. What is it? Luke 17:3 talks about that. So I say to myself, if you got a pastor over here that's got to make a church, you got a pastor over here that's got to make it, they know each other, but somebody's involved in a scandal or somebody's doing something that isn't Christ-like. Is it incumbent upon this other pastor to hold this pastor accountable? And you mentioned earlier, John, about relationship equity.
Yes.
So can you, from your vantage point, say that that's something that should be practiced more in terms of, pastors holding each other accountable? Because I know, we all know they friends. They talk like we talk. If it's Friday night, I don't hear them about Jesus, man. Let me tell you what happened yesterday at work. So, yeah, I mean, how do we combat that? Because we see that a lot. We've had things here in the city. The situation with Pastor Winans and Perfecting Church. Church still ain't built, and I think it's supposed to open this April or something like that. But yeah,
TBD.
Yeah,
TBD. Okay, for the last 20 plus years. But anyway,
and it's become a national story. I mean, it was.
Yeah, it's not just a local thing.
It's
anymore.
not a local thing anymore.
I have to imagine that he has relationships with other.
Yeah, I mean, I think that where we have to be careful as people is like, because we want to have this definitive, like, I got this opinion, right? So this must be this in my perception. Like you said, perception is reality to people. But let's take a step back and humble ourselves and be like that. Your perception may not necessarily be the reality, right? Because here it's more nuanced than that. I think like there could be, when it comes to like preachers, to your question, when it comes to preachers holding each other accountable, I think there are a lot of preachers that hold each other accountable. Now, what happens is, because we live in such a cynical society, what's going to get what's the loudest is not the majority. Because media is an industry that's based off ratings. So I need something salacious. I need something that's sexy to get people. So we want drama. So we not. So even though you got 1,000 pastors doing it with integrity, handling people's money with integrity, working in the community, sowing back in the community, that's not a story.
Right.
No, but the one pastor.
That's all it takes.
The one pastor who gets caught up in some type of whatever drama it is. Look at what he did in this sermon. He this one got caught up with this. He went to jail. That's what's going to be the loudest. And so people get caught up into that because we live in such a cynical society. And it's even people in the church doing it. The people in the church.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
like I will say, this is for somebody. But y'all church folk, stop sharing.
That's your camera right there.
Yeah, stop. Let me look at the camera. Stop sharing the drama that you see other people going through.
Yes.
How is that helping the kingdom?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And then how are you being Christ-like? Because the Bible tells me, Galatians 6:1, when somebody is overtaken, I mean, it's without any type of, there's no doubt. We know you did it. It says, when they are overtaken, you which are spiritual, I question your spirituality. I question, are you led by the Spirit of God? If the first thing you do is respond like culture does, let me share it.
And see, here's the thing too, and you're absolutely right, because like I said, from a young child, I was told about different things that happened way before social media. Something happened in the church. I won't get into it, but something happened that we thought was in my house. Some people that we knew. This is, okay, this happened. Oh man, that's crazy. That's crazy. I click on YouTube. The story's on YouTube.
Right.
And the story was from somebody who's a national YouTuber. Who's like, oh, look at this. And I'm going like, how did this get, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not that, to me, it's not that big of a deal. But now you've put it out, and I'm looking at, 1,500 views, 2,000 views.
Because now we went from media, the large media, to now I got my individual YouTube.
Exactly.
So you know what I'm saying? So like a lot of people is motivated because now, hey, my mortgage due. Let me find the most salacious story.
Right.
Let me viral clip and let me put it out there and just make it and all this stuff. Like you don't even believe in it. It's just a paycheck to them. Right. So then people just get now it's just okay, now let me just go along with the drama.
Right.
So I think people get caught up in that drama, man, like of let me just go along with what everybody else is doing and let me get caught and just bring it out. And so it's just louder, even though it's the minority.
Yeah, and I want to add a point to your question, too. I think, yes, pastors should hold other pastors accountable. Remember, we got a church and a structure. So I also think it's our responsible, whether you are a member, a trustee, a deacon, or the janitor. If something is going wrong in that church, you should address it as well.
I know what Eugene thinking right now.
I know, but
I know what he's thinking too.
I know what he's thinking
But
right now.
that's how it should be. Now, I'm not saying that's what it does happen, but yes, that is how it should happen.
But I'm gonna say
because
this.
an example
Back
I've
to
seen,
discipleship.
there's a pastor in Ohio, one of my favorite pastors, Brian Tome. Unfortunately, he was involved in a scandal, and
What
he
was
was
the
sat
scandal?
down. It was it was some inappropriate actions that looked bad, optics basically.
So he didn't do what they said he did, or did he? Just a little bit.
It's the optics that made it look very bad. But
It
where
could
I'm, where
have,
I'm,
but
where I'm,
it was-
where
it
I'm
didn't look
going
bad.
is it wasn't another pastor that reached out and held him accountable. It was his board members of his church that said, hey, we have a member that brought this issue to the table, just a member, no one high up in the church. But they came to the board members, and the board members said, hey, we need to sit you down and do a thorough review of this. So I think it can be pastors, but if you go and you see something wrong, you need to speak up as well.
But then what you have to think about is whether or not that pastor is going to be receptive.
That comes
gotta
down
get
to
it.
personal relationship. Because see, again, I'm not responsible for what you do. It's my responsibility to bring, like if I say, Gene, man, I saw you as your brother, number one, as men. I'm not here to catch you. I'm here to keep you. If that's my motive, right? And then I say, Gene, I saw you, man. This ain't right, man. What we got to do to get this right? If you don't respond at that point, all I can do is pray for you, because it's not my job to change your heart or force you to do anything. Again, it's still just seeds and water, because what my people may think, it may be a really pervasive idea that, oh, none of these preachers keep each other. They covering for each other. That's not necessarily true. Maybe I went to him and he decided not to listen.
Yep.
All I can do is back up and pray.
and I can pray from a distance.
Yeah.
Because that's the other part of that.
Bingo. I
There
like that
are,
one.
in the city of Detroit, Metro Detroit, there are 16,492 churches, probably on Grand River.
In counting.
I mean,
But
if-
don't leave out Wyoming.
That's what I'm saying. So if
I
I
said in
don't,
counting.
if you as a man can, and I've always said this, and this is just, if you as a man can say hey, I messed up. I'm gonna hold my,
Yes.
I'm gonna hold myself accountable. I'm gonna sit myself down. I need to go get myself right. Because I don't want to be in front of y'all and y'all looking at me crazy.
Yeah, and
I
it's
would do the
whispers,
same.
yeah.
I can't say something to you and I don't, hold myself accountable. If you get up there and say, well, David had the heart of,
There you go.
and then-
They
they
go-
run the day. They run the day and it's like, you do that? Okay.
Give me a
I'm going to pray
clean
for
heart.
you. But guess what? My boy got a church down the street. My cousin my cousin been telling me come over there for 10 years. You know,
I
it's like,
think Carl is like, I can rock with you if you honest.
right.
Yeah.
Right, because I don't think that we need to abandon each other when we get caught. But you got to be accountable, and when you're accountable, I can rock with you that. Now, the minute you start, if you step outside of that, then there's a reason that I need to be distanced. But I don't think that some people. Now, some of it is consequence because see, here's the thing people miss. Jesus will forgive you, but them consequences ain't going nowhere.
Nowhere.
Yep.
He gonna forget.
you
Can
gotta
the Lord
take it on
restore
the
you? He
chin.
sure can restore you, but you gonna deal with some consequences because of the choice that you made. But I think that even in the consequence, we shouldn't be so quick to just try to abandon, because I think sometimes we can just be like, if somebody has the right heart and they come with proper contrition,
Yes.
then stand with them and let's restore like the Bible says.
Yeah, give them grace.
But if you ain't got, and give them grace, but if you still arrogant about it and stuff like that, then there's gonna be some consequence that come along with that.
Carl, let me ask you, as we wrap this up, what would be your idea to bring black men back to the church?
A lot more conversation. I'm loving you using the word discipleship.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of just men are, like you said, men are less emotional than women. They look for information. They look for confirmation. They look for understanding. And I think a lot of that just comes from individual talks, small group discipleship, before you just say, come to church and get your soul saved.
Right.
I mean, it's just like,
That's all they hear.
Yeah, it's like,
But to that point, too, we want to be talked to. We don't want to be talked at.
Exactly.
Because
That's why I said conversation.
we can discern that right off rip.
Right.
Don't talk at me because we're real big on respect.
I think that goes back to discipleship, though. I mean, because when you look at Jesus, provides the example of that. Like my men's group is doing a book called Disciplines of a Godly Man right now, and one of the things I think that we miss among men is vulnerability. And that being normalized, right? And that if I'm vulnerable and if I'm humble, right, then I can be able to come to another brother and be humble and say like, hey, man, I need you like you need me. So I think it just comes back to the right attitude, having the right attitude towards that brother, and then saying, hey, I'm not coming to look down, but hey, how can we walk this path together?
Absolutely.
B, what would be your idea to bring black men back to the church?
I think it's simple. I think, and it stems from stewardship, discipleship, and all that. But I think we just need to just plain and simple be a good example of what the church is and should be. There's a lot of men out there, not speaking for all of them, like Jesus didn't go for the ones that had it together.
Right.
There's a lot of men out here that don't have it together, that need role models, need discipline, need structure. And I feel like if somebody sees, I like what Carl doing, how can I get like you? Birds of a feather will start flocking together.
I always say aim higher. When people say you want to be like me, I'd be like aim higher.
And just again, I'll reiterate: don't underestimate the power of the gospel. Don't underestimate the power of the gospel, man. Let me introduce you to who Jesus is, and then let me model it, and then let's walk this thing together. We gonna trip together, we gonna fall together, but we gonna get back up.
As long as
don't
we're trying.
underestimate the power of the gospel and that'll help us not only reach black men, but just any man in the world.
Amen. We've enjoyed this conversation, John. I mean, I think, Carl, you mentioned earlier when we were talking the other day, we're going to have you back.
I appreciate it, man. Thank y'all for having me.
In this time,
That's part one.
we definitely, because there are tons of things that we can talk about, whether we're talking about theologically or whether we're talking about secular, We good with that. I think one of the things that we can do in the church is to be more inclusive when it comes to developing male leaders. You know, as they always say, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, and I think that we can create these groups to where men feel comfortable and vulnerable, you know, to talk to each other, you know. So I think that's
Gotta feel
very
safe.
important. Yes, for sure, for sure. Fam, we want to say thank you for being here with us. Don't forget to like the episode, subscribe to the YouTube channel, throw comments in the chat. We here for all of it, you know. Another thing I like to say is when you're talking to people and they don't want to go to church or whatever, we got to remember to tell them it's not boring. It's God.
It's God, yes.
So as always, we want to tell you guys, stay prayerful, stay patient, stay positive, stay peaceful. See you next time.